You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hey, Rifters, welcome to the show. Subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcast. But my manager is now saying Spotify. That's where it's at. You go to Spotify. All right, there's my plug. Welcome to the show.
You fucking sell out. Dude, you're giving Spotify a shout out within the first minute of the podcast. Here we go. This show is brought to you by Satan himself.
We got to get those reviews on Spotify.
Like and subscribe now.
Yeah. Alan Lee's not going to be here. Instead, it's my Nightwing to my Batman, Victor Pacheco. How are you, Victor?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me, Keith.
Of course. You are actually considered a producer on this show because you got the guest.
That's right. I'm 1 for 1, baby. Let's see if we can go 2 for 2.
You know, the only guest Alan ever got was Andy Dick.
Jesus Christ, that's
and the guest you got arrested Andy Dick. Like, what a coincidence.
Yeah. Next, we're gonna get the guy that deputized the guy that arrested Andy Dick.
All right, our guest is waiting. He's one of the original Latino kings of comedy.
Latin Kings.
It's the same thing. Latino, Latin, right? It's just missing an O.
I mean, yeah, you're right, but for like trademark purposes.
Trademark, it's the Latin Kings, okay?
Yes.
Even though it's the same thing.
Don't call him Latinx.
No, it's a Latin king. He's a king.
Yes.
He's a king of the Latins. You've seen him on the Latin Kings of Comedy. You've seen him on The Neighborhood. And he has a comedy special on Showtime. The great Joey Medina is coming in right now. Are you ready, Victor?
Absolutely.
All right. I just let him in to this rage fest. Holy Lord, Victor, you did get Joey.
Hey, Joey. How you doing, brother?
Good, brother. How you guys doing?
Hey, Joey. How are you, man?
Good, Keith.
A long time no see.
I know. What's going on, man?
Oh, just living the dream, podcasting. Victor texted me. He's like, hey, I could get Joey to do it. I was like, all right, I'll bet you $100 you can't.
Uh-oh, sorry, you lost $100.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask you anyway. I was like, I could get Joey, but I wanted him to feel good. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right.
So right when he's like, all right, I'm about to text Joey, I was like, all right, deal's off. Well, I said really fast so you didn't hear me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how are you, buddy? Victor tells me you're in Arizona right now.
Yeah, I'm in Tucson right now. I got shows tonight and tomorrow. But at the very moment, I'm at my son's house chilling. And because I have 2 sons that live here in Tucson.
Oh, that's very convenient.
Yes, very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a dope. So he's got a dope house with a dope yard.
Oh, for the folks at home, Joey Medina is showing us his son's dope backyard.
A desert.
We don't release the video, so I have to explain everything I'm seeing for the folks at home.
Oh, okay.
That's gorgeous. That is really gorgeous.
Actually, yeah, it's really pretty here.
So Joey, we wanted to, like, Victor and I had a bet for Double or Nothing because I heard you used to be a police officer, right? Okay. So far I'm winning the Double or Nothing, and then I also heard, I heard this that you arrested Andy Dick.
No, not true.
Oh my God. The things you read on Google, man. Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can't believe everything, unfortunately, but
yeah, I know. Well, hey, they put a whole bunch of like crap on Google. But so explain to us how you got from being a police officer to doing comedy.
Well, the thing is, the police officer kind of just a short amount of time. When I retired from boxing, I didn't know what else I was going to do. And I had a friend who was a cop, so I'm like, all right, I'm going to be a cop. Mm. But comedy was always in my heart, but I never thought I'd be a comedian. And then one day, I was just really depressed, broke up in a relationship, had nothing going for me. And I went to a comedy club to cheer myself up. And I looked at the comedian on stage and I saw what he was doing and I loved it. And I go, you know what? I can start my life all over again. I have nothing to lose. I had nothing. I really had literally nothing to lose anymore. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to rewind and reboot. I'm going to start a whole new life and I'm going to become a comedian. And that's in the short story. That's how it went.
So that's how you met Andy Dick. He was the first comedian you saw.
I've actually only met Andy Dick once.
Oh,
my whole life.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually good friends with him. We were just making a joke because he just got arrested for like the 30th time.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I was like, Officer Medina probably knows the people who got him. I don't know.
Oh. But I met him. I think I was at a party or something, and that's how I met him. And but seemed like a nice guy.
No, he's a sweetheart. He's one of those guys where I feel everyone is a sweetheart if you can get past their demons. You know what I mean?
No, that's true. Unfortunately, people label people. You do. Either this or either that. But everybody had. I mean, Hitler was kind to animals. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. So, and he was an artist. And I'm not saying I'm not a Hitler fan at all, but what I'm saying is I think people are generally really good or good people or bad people. But even though you're a good person, you still have some demons. And even though you're a bad person, you still have some minor good qualities in you. It doesn't make you who you are. I think who you are is the totality. I can't even say the word of who you are and of, what you've done. So, like for instance, Jeffrey Dahmer might, he likes to walk old ladies across the street, right. Then he eats them. I don't know, but it's like, whatever. It's like, so it's just some people, basically not everybody is what you think. Either a little negative or a little positive,
Yeah. Victor and I interviewed this positive motivational speaker once, right? Mm-hmm. The guy said nothing positive.
Well, there you go.
we also stumped him and we made him out to be a charlatan because he did not have good advice to give me. Next time I substitute teach during the day, and I wanted to ask his advice as a motivational speaker, what he would say, or how he would redirect a student once a student tells them after reading, hey, reading's gay, and if you read, you're gay. Yeah. How would you handle that? He had no answer. So just motivate me to motivate these kids. It's not working out.
But Joey, my answer was perfect. Like, it made him uncomfortable. I was like, doesn't matter. I still suck cock.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Just with you, like the first time I saw Joey was many years ago on Que Locos. And for the longest, I thought Joey was squeaky clean comedian. No curses, no, because on Que Locos, you can't be dirty. Right, so then I saw you on Showtime, and I'm like, holy shit. I saw you Latin Kings of Comedy. I'm like, dude, this guy's hilarious. I mean, you were hilarious during Que Locos, but I thought you were a hilarious clean comic. And then I find out that you just did that for Que Locos, and I'm like, wow, that is very, very, very impressive. And I love the fact that like you could be very, very clean, but also very, very dirty, but all the time, super hilarious. And my question to you was, how did your life change after appearing on the original Latin Kings of Comedy? You had already done a lot of stuff, before then, and I was wondering how your life changed after that.
Well, when we did the original Latin Kings of Comedy, I knew it was going to change my life. Like I knew it was going to be a big difference. It was going to be a staple. Now, how big the wave, I didn't know, you know. But things changed. I went from, you know, being an opening act for Paul Rodriguez to headlining, you know, casinos, theaters, making 10 grand every single show. You know, making even more sometimes. And you know, but my thing was this, from boxing, I've learned you have to rise to the occasion. Yeah. You know what I mean? I knew the Latin Kings of Comedy was going to be my Rocky moment. I knew that when I was going to be on that and it came out in theaters, because it came out in theaters first, that I knew people were going to be like, oh, why him? He didn't deserve it. He shouldn't be blah, blah, blah. So I knew that I would have to step my game up, and I knew that I would have to continue earning, you know, that title of the Latin King of Comedy or whatever. And, you know, but I also knew other things. I also knew that you have to keep riding the wave. You know, for instance, the original Kings of Comedy did that. The Blue Collar Tour guys, they did that. They rode the wave. And I don't really think we did necessarily. I mean, George Lopez afterwards, you know, was lucky enough to hook up with Sandra Bullock, and she believed in him and got him the sitcom. But you know, Cheech Cheech has always been great and always been successful, and so is Paul to the most extent. He really truly is the original Latin King of Comedy, and but I knew that it was something that you have to go, because I think as being the Hispanic minority, I think it just wasn't going to be given. I didn't think people were just going to say, oh, okay, you guys are now going to, you know, host game shows and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And I don't think anybody just does that. I think you have to work a lot. But I think that I just think it wasn't going to be easy. And I was right. Like, it's, you know, things out of the three groups, the original Kings of Comedy, the Blue Collar Tour, and then us. And Blue Collar Tour, I think, came after us. We're the ones who were probably the least successful as a whole, you know? Yeah. And there was some bickering going on, and there was some other stuff. I'm not going to mention names, but like when Latin Kings of Comedy came out, we had an invitation to be on Oprah. Oh my God. Yeah. And thank God you declined that, man. Yeah, I know, right? That would have ruined my career. When I heard that, I'm like, oh, that's it. We've made it, you know? And then one of the members, and I'm not going to mention names, but one of the members declined. And the Oprah show was like, if we can't have all of you, then we won't have you on. And so we didn't get on. And that really, really was disappointing.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. But, you know, hey, it is life, man. Yeah. Life is life. You know, and I still, you know, my thing is this. I'm always, I don't focus on what I don't have. I always focus on what I have. And to this day, I've been really blessed. I've traveled the world. I've made enough money to buy my mom a house. I have great friends, you know. I've stretched my career into film. You know, I've met some amazing people. So I mean, I'm a lot more successful than not successful. So yeah, I'm still a winner.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's why I try to preach to Victor all the time, you know, because like sometimes he'll be like, hey, this week's a little slow. I don't have a lot of shows or whatever. I'll be like, but you got success. You open up for Pablo Francisco, man.
Nice. I love Pablo. He's great.
Yeah. I call him Pablio.
Pablio?
Oh, tell him it's on by accident. Tell him that's how you pronounce his name, because you think that L has an I after it. Pablio. He's called him Pablio throughout the whole podcast, and I'm like, that's his pet name. No, that's what Keith fucking thinks his name is, Pablio.
Yeah.
Well,
but here's the thing, it's not even his real name.
I think I was not polio. Oh no.
Yeah, it's not his real name either.
Yeah. So
Oh yeah, I saw
it
his
doesn't really
real
matter if you call him Pablo or Pablio.
Pablo. No, man. What's it called? Joey, I had another question about Latin comedy. How has Latin comedy changed from when you started to how it is now?
Oh, it's a lot better. And well, there's a lot more comics. But Latin comedy was very Hispanic, very Latino, very, my tia, my tío, and, tortillas and the this and the that. And now it's not. You got comics talking about regular things. Every comic talks about relationships, jobs, their children, politics even. And that's good, because I think what happens, especially in show business, is that Amos and Andy effect. You know what I mean? Like when you have minorities, you got to play that. You got to play that role. That's what people think that you want to hear. Like I remember one time when I first started doing stand up, I called a comedy club to try to get booked, and they said, "Oh no, we already had a Latin comic this month." Like,
Jesus.
What? It's like it's not like you're ordering Mexican food from Grubhub. You know what I mean? Like, no, we already had Mexican this week. I want to get something else. It's like, no, man, we're two different people.
Yeah.
But what it was every comic was doing. A lot of the comics, not every comic, but a lot of comics were doing the exact same type of material. And by the way, I love those shakes. I drink the coffee ones.
Oh, guess what? This is the coffee one.
Nice.
Oh!
Those are the best.
These are the best. They
You
don't
guys
work.
You guys are shake Zoom mates.
Oh man.
Yeah. So, that's how it's changed now. Comics are really funny, and they're a lot different, a lot more diverse. And sometimes we're kind of similar. Like I came up with a joke last night, and I posted it today on Instagram and Facebook. And then a comic friend of mine hit me up, and he DM'd me. He goes, "Hey, that's so-and-so. That's Tanya Estrada's joke. She has a joke like that." And I'm like, "Oh shit, I didn't know."
Yeah.
So I'm like, so I deleted it right away, and I called her up. I go, "Hey, just so you know, I just posted your joke, but I didn't know it was I didn't know you had a joke like that." So and then I deleted it. I go, don't worry, I'm never gonna do it. I just thought it was funny. But it was a Latin joke, so it had two people think the same sometimes.
Well, I think she forgives you. I mean, it's not like Carlos Mencia did it.
Yeah. But not only that, it's like, I mean, oh yeah, poor Carlos. He's going through a lot. But and I'm not a fan or foe. I'm just stating fact. But
I interviewed him and I made him cry, and I felt like the biggest dick in the world.
Right? How did you make him cry?
Well, because we're just talking, right? And he's actually, for the folks at home, he's actually, like, comedy wise, I'm not the biggest fan, but as a person, he's actually a very sweet guy.
That's good. It's good to hear.
I guess he thought I don't know. And I try to stay away from questions they've always been asked. Like, I didn't want to say, "Hey, Carlos, what's it like being a thief?" Stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, somehow I'm dodging these questions, and then he just goes back into it. Like he has real bitterness because Rogan ruined his career or whatever. And he brings up Rogan, and I'm just like, "Oh, let's talk about that since you brought it up." And then it just eventually got teary, and I was like, I'm one of those type of people, like, if you cry in front of me, it makes me very uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, here's $2.
You would be the worst kidnapper ever.
Oh yeah, terrible. Yeah. Like, I would be like, "Oh my God, this kid is crying. I should let it go."
Jesus Christ.
That's why I kidnap dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they can't say anything. They don't even know they're kidnapped.
But that was the one question I did want to ask you about crisscrossing, because people could also write the same thing, and it could come out the same, like you said. And then I think people don't understand that the brain could sometimes match another brain. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, of course. It's they call it parallel thinking, and we're comedians. As comedians, you're trained to look for the funny and to hear the funny.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy for two comedians to come up with the same concept. What's more difficult or more where the problem really begins is when the joke is almost word for word. Then you're like, yeah, I think this person stole it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I've had comics do jokes that are really similar to mine. I've done jokes that were similar to other comics, and then I find out later, I'm like, I didn't know. I mean, I didn't even know that person.
Does that piss you off when you see comics do your material?
It only if I think they stole it, and that doesn't happen too much. But but like I'll work with a comic who I never met, and they'll open for me, or they're middling or whatever, and they'll do a joke real similar to mine, but I can tell it's their joke, not mine. And what I'll do is I'll just call it back, and I'll make my joke work. You know what I mean? Because I don't want the audience to think like, hey, didn't we just hear a joke like that?
Yeah.
So it's actually not that difficult.
I know the feeling. Like, there's only one time a comic stole one of my jokes, and then like he did it on a show like right in front of me, and I was like, you know what? I'm not even gonna get mad about it, because if he has to sync to take my act before I go up, more power to him. You know what I mean?
Oh, and I would have brought it up to him.
Oh no, I just did the joke. I was like, so there's all these dating sites, eHarmony, Match.com, Megan's Law. I know you just heard Fred tell that joke, but it's funnier if I do it.
That's funny.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And no, but I think it's important to let a comic know, because like, hey man, I know you took that joke, or let a comic like I've for instance, if I do see a comic that goes on, or even if I'm in the same place that they do a similar joke to mine, I always approach them afterwards. They go, just so you know, I have a really similar joke to yours, and this is the way my joke goes. It's only because I don't want him to think I took his joke. So for instance, he was big, dude, you were there at the club when I did that joke. And I'm like, well, I know, but I don't want to say anything. No, but I do say it. I'm like, hey, bro, it's a similar joke to mine, just so you know. And then I explain what my joke is.
Yeah.
Or, and because that way they know it's like, okay, this guy didn't steal it when he watched me that day. And I do the same thing with well, the only thing I don't like is when I do a joke, and then, like, let's say I go to a city and I meet the comic. I always watch the comic's first show just so I can see what they got and what they're doing. And then all of a sudden, I do my set. And then the next day I watch them again. And then they do a similar joke that I did the second day. I'm like, dude, if I have a joke like that already, and I know you have, I'm sure this is your joke, but if you already have, if you didn't do it the first day, then don't do it anymore. I don't want to have to remind you of your set.
Right.
You know what I mean? Then I have to watch them every single day so I don't trip over their material. You know what I mean?
Well, because it's like, you're not the babysitter, you're the headliner. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right.
Like, yeah, I totally get that.
Right.
Like, who would want to watch openers?
Yeah, but again, it's just like, it's like, dude did it first, And the same thing with me. Like, if I see a middle act has a really joke similar to mine, it's really funny, I may not do my joke anymore because I'm like, oh, you know what? I like his. It's there's no reason why to do something twice, or to do a similar subject twice. Yeah. For instance, unless it somehow complements it or does a callback to it, there's no reason to. And I have plenty of material. I don't need to do any specific joke ever.
One time in San Francisco, me, Norm, and Barry Sobel was the host, and Barry's all like, "Hey, you guys should watch my act, right?" And he just bombed, and then he goes up and he's like, "Hey, what do you think of it?" And me and Norm are just like, "It wasn't that good."
Hey, it's honest.
That's the scariest thing, to have the headliner watch your set. Like, I did a show with Joey, and after I got off stage, Joey comes up to me, shakes my hand, he's like, "Dude, funny stuff." And I'm like, "Oh fuck, you just watched me?" So it was kind of intimidating, but at the same time, I was like, I knew you were in the room, But I didn't know if you were
Maybe.
watching. I don't know if you were on your cell phone. I didn't know. No idea. So it's always intimidating. Whether it's good feedback or bad feedback, it's always intimidating. Like,
No,
not,
but you know the funny thing is, if it was bad feedback, I wouldn't have said anything unless you asked.
what a sweetheart. Well, sometimes people give you unsolicited advice on how you can be better or how you
Oh,
can
of
be more
course.
like the comedian giving the advice.
Yeah, and I never do that. I never give advice unless someone asks. And depending on how they ask, that's how I give my advice. So if I could, if I think they just want some accolades, I'm like, no, good job, man, good job. And I just move on. But if they're like, no, really, man, I'm like, okay, well, I go. And I always, anytime I give anyone advice about anything, I don't care what it is, I always give the positive first, and then I'll do the negative. You know, but the day that I watched you, literally everybody pretty much killed it, man. And everybody was really unique and different, and they had a really good energy. And you know, sometimes, you know, when you work with when you do smaller shows or you work with people you're not really familiar with, you don't really expect too much, you know. And but that day, and I'm not patronizing, that day really everybody was killing it, and everybody was very unique and different. I'm like, all right, man, good job.
Well, I like to bring my A game, you know. Oh wait, I wasn't on that show.
Oh man, yeah, I was just thinking about that because I gave them a positive review because they gave us free merch, which was cool.
Oh yeah, they gave it nice.
They were super cool. I was just like, how much do I owe you? They're like, just take it. I'm like, doesn't the owner need to know? That's I am the owner. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That just this is wow, service with a smile. That was cool. I got some little keychains, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Super Mario Brothers. It was, you know, it was a great time for me. I don't know. I thought that was a great show. I was wondering, do you perform in Spanish?
No, my Spanish is horrible. Like, I mean, I can speak Spanish. I could have a kind of a sort of conversation, but since I've never really practiced it a lot, there's a lot of words I don't know. So I'll end up just speaking Spanglish, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's no way in the world I can think fast enough to translate my act in Spanish.
But what about
something you've ever wanted to try?
If I had that ability, I would love to do it because then it's just another market. But I don't have that ability, and I'm not. It's like salsa dancing. You know what? I mean, I'm Puerto Rican. I should be able to do it, but it's just not in the cards for me.
The only reason I ask is because, like, I could speak Spanish, but you could tell I have an accent. Spanish is my first language, but then I got bullied into speaking English, and now I speak perfect English, and now my Spanish has a little accent, American accent in it. So I did a show in Spanish, you know, just because I know how to speak Spanish. Some of my jokes translate. You know, I look like a proud Samoan lesbian woman with a beard. Me parezco como una lesbiana samoana con barba. It's the same joke, same exact joke. Almost same cadence and everything, but not every single thing translates. And the one thing I was worried about was that somebody was going to heckle me during the 10-minute set that I was doing. 40 seconds into my set, some drunk Mexican dude is heckling the shit out of me. So I tell him in Spanish, if he doesn't shut the fuck up, I'm going to call immigration on him. And the place went fucking crazy. And it was like, oh, cool. I just went over the biggest hurdle I thought I had. And so, so I was just like wondering. I mean, not wondering, but I mean, it's just like I was just throwing that idea out there because, like, I love Latino comics. I love being around Latino. I love being around all comics, but it's just, I don't know. It's a little different though, like in Spanish. And so I was just wondering if you had ever done it, and if you hadn't, if there was any interest to encourage you, because you're fucking hilarious. So even if you had like a little blotchy Spanish that isn't 100% perfect, I think you would still kill it in Spanish. Yeah, knowing what I know of you in English.
Right. Thank you. I mean, I would maybe try to give it a shot for a few minutes. Like I would start like an open micer, maybe. You know what I mean? In Spanish. But it's the same. It would be the same skill as when you have to work clean, or you have to translate a dirty joke and make it a clean joke, or when you do, like, for instance, I work cruise ships. When you work cruise ships, every ship you have to at least do 2 PG shows with children there. And how do I, because even though I can literally do my entire act completely clean, but there are still adult subjects that I would not do, in front of kids, right? So how do I turn that around? How do I switch it around? And that's the fun part about stand-up, is that you can alternate you can alternate the joke, you can alternate the behavior, you can alternate and change it and use it differently, for different ways. Like simple thing is like when I first started doing stand-up comedy, I was doing a lot of Latin jokes because that's what everybody did, right? And I remember one time I did this one whole Latin bit in front of a bunch of white people, and they just didn't buy it. And then the next day, I knew it was going to be the same not the same group, but the same type of people. So instead of using, Mexican or whatever, I just changed it to redneck. And it was the exact same bit, but I just used redneck instead of Mexican or whatever I was using. And it killed. And all it is just transforming it to something else. Because this is this is an analogy I use. I go, jokes are chicken, like chicken. There's fried chicken, there's chicken curry, there's this kind of chicken, there's that chicken, there's baked chicken, there's all kinds of chicken. And it depends how you serve it. Sometimes, depending on the audience, you serve the chicken differently than you would with this other audience. And that's what a joke is. It's just a story. How do I make the story work for these people?
Except a joke has ha ha and not cluck cluck cluck.
That's true.
Keith, Joey just gave out this brilliant metaphor, and then you just cluck cluck, you dick. I'm over here having an epiphany over here, and you're just like cluck cluck buck buck, and I'm just like, Keith, you're fucking up the moment. No, I'm just kidding. But I swear to God, I never thought of it like that. As a chicken, you're serving all these different types of chicken. It's all the same chicken. It's your chicken, and so it's just I love metaphors. I love them so much,
me too.
Especially with stand-up, because like with stand-up, it's like like the way I see it is like, when you get to a certain level and then you get to the next level, I always feel that when I get to the next level, I'm at the very bottom of the next level. So I have to work my way up to get to the next level. So I can be at the very bottom of the next level. So I don't know, like for me, it's like a fucking stairs, and stairs are not fat friendly. So that's how I see it.
No, you're right. We as comedians, and I don't, not just comedians, I would assume it's every artist and also athletes. We hit plateaus, right? We hit levels where like, okay, this is the best I've ever been. And then, all of a sudden, a few years later, oh, wow, this is the best I've ever been. And this is the best. And then you just get better and better and better. And I noticed that with myself. I noticed that in other comics. I'll see a comic who, what I thought was okay, this and that. Like, I'll give you an example, because I usually never mention names if it's negative, but this is positive. Like there's a really funny comic named Manny Maldonado, right?
Yeah.
Now Manny always had this weird, crazy energy and this and that, but then his energy was better than his material, and his persona was a little, but he had all this crazy energy. And then I always loved Manny, but then I started working with him again, and we worked together once on a cruise, and he just was a different level. It was a different level. He just literally went from here to here, and it was the same material, a lot of new material too, but the persona was different. The pacing was different. The new jokes were a lot smarter. They were, and I told him, I said, you are really polished now. You're killing. I mean, you're destroying it now. Like before, it was just all the hyper energy, which was like, I call it more frosting than cake. But I said, now you got frosting and you got a cake, and it's like, and I was really just impressed, and I was very happy to see him, reach that next level. Like I would recommend him for any gig. And I've seen him kill the same way doing clean shows. And
do you think that really that also improves with like the growth development too? Because for example, like when my grandfather died, before he died, I was terrible. When he died, I became good. And then when Norm died, I feel I became great. You know what I mean? So I feel like when traumatic things happen, I feel it really helps your comedy be more crisp.
A lot of things make people's comedy. Sometimes not giving a shit really helps. And sometimes not trying to impress anybody. I always tell comics, your goal should always be yourself. Be yourself on that stage, just higher at a hyper level. You know what I mean? And if you can do that, then it's just organic and it's natural. And it doesn't seem like you're doing an act. You know, a lot of times you see comics go up, especially green comics, and they'll talk on stage like they don't talk in real life, right? Right? And they do this, yeah, okay, right.
Are you mimicking Richard Chasler?
I'm like, nobody talks like that in real life, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm like, what are you doing? And it's just, but I get it, because for when you're a new comic, you really are doing an act. This is not you don't naturally nobody naturally goes up on stages to tell jokes, right? So now you have to be like, I have to put on a routine and do this act, and it has to be this way, and I have to say this, then I have to say this, then I have to say this, then I have to say this. And then you realize later, it's like, oh, that's bullshit. You don't have to do any of that. Just go up there, be yourself, tell the story this way, tell it in reverse, start with the ending, end with the beginning. It doesn't matter. Just make it work for you at that moment on that stage.
Yeah. Now, I actually had a question about two of your films. One, Hollywood Horrors.
Oh, okay.
Right? How is that? That's like the best title ever.
Yeah.
That was my only question.
That was an interesting film I did because there was no script.
Yeah.
It was just the director had this idea that he was just going to shoot this film without a script. It was just a storyline. And I didn't think it was going to actually even be that good. And then I saw it. I was impressed. I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's actually better than I thought. And it made me, it's one of those things now as a filmmaker, I want to one day attempt something similar because I think there's, it's great that I don't have to write a script then, right? But it would be nice to try something new, like a comic. And comics always want to try something different. Let me try doing this kind of crowd, or let me doing this kind of bit, or let me try to do this or that. And as a filmmaker, I want to do the same thing. I don't want to repeat the same kind of things I do. And even though sometimes I do, because everyone has a style, even if they don't realize they have a style or a type of theme that they always work with. But so yeah, that was fun doing that. That was a few years ago, but it was actually pretty fun.
And then you have a short, right, that's getting a lot of awards right now. It's 17, 18 minutes that you wrote and directed. Yeah. And it had Bill Dawes in it. So I was wondering, what was that process like?
Well, I wrote, right before pandemic, I wrote a film called Philly Delight that I was going to shoot. It was a short film too, but it was a lot of moving parts, a lot of actors, a lot of moving parts. And then the pandemic hit and the quarantine happened. And so I had to put that on the shelf. And I still wanted to shoot something. And I thought to myself, all right, let me write something that has two actors in one location. And I came up with the story, and it's called Beautiful Violence. And it's just two people in an alley. And it's yesterday won its 81st award.
Whoa.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's spectacular.
Yeah. It's I mean, I hate, film festivals are expensive, but it feels good winning.
Yeah.
And yeah, Bill, and the funny thing was Bill Dawes and Eric Blake is the other actor who's also a comedian, very funny guy as well. Both of them were actors I did not want for these parts, for those parts. They just physically didn't fit the image I had in my head. And Eric, I didn't even know he was an actor. Bill Dawes is the one, once I booked Bill recommended Eric, and I was like, all right. So Eric sent in and yesterday, the award we got was for Best Supporting Actor for Eric. So anyway, but so Eric sent in an audition tape because it's during quarantine, and and I was like, man, he killed it. But I still didn't want him. I still kept on looking for someone else to play the part, somebody bigger,
right.
And
like Faison Love.
Well, he would have been great. Actually, Craig Robinson almost did it.
Oh, really?
He wanted to do the part, and then because of work, he's doing great, commercials and TV shows. He just didn't have the time. And then that's when
money.
Yeah. So I decided. I said, you know what? Let me give Eric a shot. And so I had Bill and Eric come to my house and do the part, and just kind of do a rehearsal there. And and I loved it. And I loved their chemistry. It worked well. And I love the idea of just really dramatic piece, not only being directed, written, and produced by a comedian, it's now starring 2 comedians. And as a matter of fact, I think it's August 3rd. We're taking the movie on the road. We're showing it at Caroline's in New York on Broadway. And then we're going to do a set. Each one of us is going to do a set. And then we're going to do a question and answer afterwards.
Oh my God.
That's awesome. That's super awesome.
What do you think about, because like, you know, you just said you didn't know if Eric Blake could be a good actor. What do you think about that stereotype where they say comedians can't be good actors, but if you actually look into the eyes of it, they're actually great actors?
Yeah, I think, well, this is what I think. I think comedians are great dramatic actors, not necessarily great comedic actors, because, and this is generally speaking, obviously everybody's different, but the reason being, I think, is because when comedians have to act, read a script and be funny with someone else's lines, it's not natural for us.
Right.
You know, it's not, you know, it's very difficult being funny like someone else is funny. It's easy for us to be fun, but dramatic is different. Every comedian has gone through everything. You know, that we've been divorced, we've had fights with people, we've been fired. Anything dramatic, we've pretty much been through. And because we know how to express ourselves, we can act dramatic because we know how to make that feel. I know how to pour my heart out there if I just broke up with somebody because I've done it. And because I'm a comedian and I know how to express myself, I put those 2 things together and I have a good performance. And I think that's what happened at least in this film with Eric and Bill. Bill's a trained actor anyway. He's been on Broadway more than once, you know. So I always knew Bill had acting chops. But I honestly think comedians really are good dramatic actors because of that. Because, you know, we know how to express ourselves, and expressing ourselves that's not comedy is a lot easier for us. I think. I you know, just in my opinion.
Oh, I agree. That's why, like, I don't act, because I just like doing comedy. But if I ever did, like, Beautiful Violence 2 or whatever, I'm sure I could pull it.
Yeah, Beautifully Violent.
Yeah,
I'll just change the title a little bit, make it. Yeah. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just I forgot now what I was gonna say anyway. So go ahead.
I think you were gonna say it's so good to see you again, Keith. It's been 10 years.
Of course.
That is not what he was gonna say. I was trying to transition from beautiful violence to actual violence, and ask Joey a question about a recent post that he made following the Chris Rock Will Smith fiasco. You posted, I don't know if you were joking, it kind of seemed like you weren't, that, hey, I'm offering free boxing lessons to comedians so they could protect themselves. Now, my question to you is, how do I go about you training me to box? Because I saw that and I was just like, yeah, you know, when he shook my hand, you got some meat hooks there, bro. Like,
thanks,
you know, that was like a man's man, like shake, like, oh, hey, what's up, Theo? I just met you, but Theo, what's up? You're like, mijo, you got a girlfriend? What are you, gay? No, just kidding. None of that happened, but it was like one of those handshakes. But so yeah, how does one get into being trained for boxing, especially if they're like 380 pounds?
Well, you know, when I wrote that, it was more of a joke. It was more tongue in cheek, but no, like I really like. Sure, I'll just come over to my house for an hour, and I'll show you just what. I mean, if you want to learn how to, you know, for instance, learning boxing and learning how to defend yourself are 2 different things, right? Because boxing is this whole thing.
Isn't it like an art, boxing?
Yeah.
In a way?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It really is, But, you know, so that's one thing. But then there's the fundamentals of boxing that is really you can use to fight somebody or to not fight somebody, but defend yourself. You know what I mean? There's proper ways to throw punches. There's proper ways to use your balance. There's proper ways to slip punches or move away from punches. So those things are part of boxing, but they're the parts also that can be used just for self-defense.
Because I saw that post and like, I don't mean to be narcissistic or anything, but I was like, this is about me, isn't it? This is about me. You know, Joey didn't say it. He probably thinks I shake hands like a weakling, and he wants to offer me a chance to protect myself just in case my jokes don't go over, or I don't know, or I insult somebody's wife's hair or whatever happens. But no, as I saw that, I knew you were joking, but there was a hint of, I'll teach you how to box. I'll teach you how to box.
I will. I've had people already hit me up, and I'm like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. I'll hook you up. You know, and it's kind of like, you know, and it's so funny. It's like the last thing I ever would want is for someone to come up on stage and I have to defend myself. That's the last thing I would ever want. Because I may just take the mic stand and hit him in the face. Like, it's just, once your foot touches that thing, it's like trespassing. You came into my house and it's done. You're not going to get off stage.
That's why there's a mic there.
But not by yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I won't take, now I've had people come on stage before. I've had, but I can tell it wasn't in a violent fashion. It was a drunk situation. I had one guy who just stood on stage and just stared at me, and I just made fun of him the whole time. I had a woman who came on stage drunk, and she made me sit. She sat on the. Oh no, I was sitting on the stool. She sat on my lap, and then I kind of just pretended she was a puppet, and I was a ventriloquist, and I made it work. You know what I mean?
Was she hot?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember. I don't think so. But then, you know, but if I saw somebody coming up being aggressive, then that's different. That's a different story. You know, the show's temporarily going to be on pause for a second until I take care of it, and then we can begin.
You know, in a way, I feel the whole Chris Rock thing. I mean, I feel it's kind of hack talking about now, but I feel in a way, because I've always thought Tony Rock was funnier than Chris Rock, right? And then when Tony said, I wish Will Smith would have tried to hit me, I would have showed him who's boss. In a way, I felt Chris Rock saved stand-up comedy by not hitting back. You know what I mean?
Chris Rock, I think Chris Rock handled it perfectly.
Yeah.
Because one, he's never going to be even if he did hit back, he wasn't going to be the bad guy. But it would have, all the negative focus went on Will Smith.
Yeah.
And it made him look like a pro. It made him look like people want to work with him now. You know, I mean, I'm sure everybody was, but it just made him the hero.
Yeah,
and that was such a smart move. And I don't think he probably even made that move. Like, he didn't think about it. Go, all right, in a split second, let me think about all of this. I just thought he probably was stunned and like, what the hell just happened? And during that dullness, you know, it just happened that he didn't do anything. And good for him, man. He handled it perfectly. I mean, he really did handle it perfectly.
Yeah. The only thing that sucks about the whole situation is we probably won't get season 4 of Cobra Kai.
Yeah, that's over with.
I mean, like, ridiculous. All right, Victor, you got any last second questions for Joey?
Yes. This is an important one too, because you know, you've been in comedy for years, and I was wondering now.
30 years.
30 years. Congratulations.
This year is 30 years. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you're like extremely polished, of course. So I'm like wondering, like, when you write new jokes or new stories, are you thinking about cancel culture, or you don't give a fuck and you just write whatever you think is funny?
I write whatever's funny, and then I see, okay, how could I make this chicken the kind of chicken everyone will take a bite of, right? So, like, I'll give you a good example. I came up with a great joke that had to do with Down syndrome. And I'm like, okay, I just can't go, hey, you want to hear something funny about people with Down syndrome? That makes me look like a horrible person, right? So I decided to say, okay, you know what? I go, you know, yeah, I have my mom, I have a little brother who has I have a brother who's Down syndrome. My mom adopted him. And so now I'm making it about me, making it close and personal, so it's easier to swallow the joke. And so what the joke is like, I go, but when he got older, he wanted to know who his real parents were. And, you know, we didn't know this, but there's actually a DNA test they have just for people with Down syndrome. It's called 22andMe. And so that's the joke. But now to make it even better, because I always still get some ooze. And I go, wait. I go, they even have one for conjoined twins called 46 and Us. So I pull it away. I pull it away from Down syndrome and make it a thing that's even more outrageous. So, and that's how I get away with those jokes.
I would eat that chicken. That's funny as fuck. That's funny as fuck. Dude, I love these metaphors with food. This is so awesome. It's so relatable. But yeah, that's yeah. Oh, and then I guess my last question is, I should have asked this towards the beginning because I of course researched you. So before you started stand-up, you were working at Domino's, and I was wondering, when you were working at Domino's, were you writing jokes or funny stories, or were you just like having a job? Because you said you always wanted to be a stand-up, but were you writing jokes when you were working at Domino's? Or
no, Domino's was my comedy job, because I didn't want to take a regular job that I couldn't do comedy, right? And I had a friend who was a comedian, and he was an open micer like me, and he was doing Domino's. He goes, yeah, man, I make my own schedule. I can do whenever I want. So if I have to go out of town, and you know, I always have cash. It's cash. I have tips, so it's always cash. It was before everyone was using credit cards and shit all the time, right? So I worked for Domino's, and I cared just about comedy. Like, it was because of comedy. I was always getting in trouble because I was, you know, I didn't care about the job. Like, I remember one time when I quit, I had a gig. You know, like, it was like about 2 hours away, and after I finished my shift, I was ready to leave, and the manager, who was like 10 years younger than me, you know, was like, he goes, oh no, you have to go in the back and do the dishes. And I was like, oh, but I'm going to be late. He goes, oh, you have to. I'm like, all right. And I put the apron on, and I started going in the back, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? It's not what I want. What I want is where I'm going to. I'm like, I took my apron off, and I quit, brother. Thanks. And I left. I never came back because I had a gig. And I'm like, I'm not going to let a Domino's job interrupt, you know, cock block my comedy career.
So is that where you met Andy Dick at Domino's?
Exactly. You know, I delivered an all sausage pizza to Andy. And
I bet you tipped you with sausage.
I knew the Google had some truth.
But when he tipped me, he told me just a tip. I'm like, all right, I guess.
Now, Joey, my last question for you is, where can the folks at home follow and support you?
And definitely, my Instagram is my favorite social media. So it's Joey Medina Comic, one word, Joey Medina Comic. And that's also my Facebook, but it's full. And Twitter is also Joey Medina Comic, but I don't like Twitter so much. So yeah, you catch me in Joey Medina Comic. You can also check out my production website, which is BronxBoyEntertainment.com. If you go to BronxBoyEntertainment.com, you can see a lot of my films on there. And yeah, follow me.
I'm sorry, I do have one last question since you brought up the production thing. Have you ever thought about doing comedy specials besides your own for like other comics?
Yeah, I've done actually two. I did one called Latin Palooza. I hosted that one, and then I did one called Cholo Comedy Slam, and I didn't host that one, but I directed that one and produced it. So yeah, I mean, I love doing comedy specials because I do both. I'm a comedian, so I know. And I also did another one called it was the Dirty All-Star Comedy Show. I directed that, and that was in Vegas, and that was fun. I was in that as well. So yeah. I mean, if the situation was right, I would always direct someone special.
Yeah. So Victor, you got a chance to get your special directed by Joey.
Let me get a solid 45, and then maybe I'll call. So
I know there's so many comics now who go, I got a special, and it's like 15 minutes long. I'm like, dude, that's not a special. That's more like special ed. That's a special. That's not a special, man. That's a set. That's just a 15-minute set, dude. You videotaped it. That was all it was.
Yeah.
But see, it's kind of like how we were talking about earlier, how like, you could see a lot of bad comics, but they could get that 15-minute set on, Netflix or whatever, the stand-ups, to get that 15 minutes, they could claim that as a special. They're set the rest of their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what? That's unfortunate. Well, no, I don't want to say unfortunate, because it's not. It's the way things are now. Things are different. But it's also, that's happened in the past when, when, let's say, Evening at the Improv was on and a comic went on there with a strong 8 minutes and killed it, and then became, now headlining, but yet they didn't even have half an hour. You know? So it's just the nature of the beast. Which, the way I see it is I used to think, back in the day, I used to think, those people don't deserve it. But then I thought to myself, well, you know what? I hope one day I get something I don't deserve. That would be nice,
Yeah.
And what is somebody supposed to do? Let's say all you got is 5 minutes, and it's a funny 5 minutes, but that's all you got. And then all of a sudden, people want to headline you, and people want to, you want to put you in movies or TV shows. What are you supposed to say? No. Of course, you'll be stupid if you said no. Now, of course, you're not ready for it, but look, that's going back to what I said before. You need to rise to the occasion. You need to get writers. You need to build your set, and keep working on that set, and you just have to work at a faster pace, and get your acting lessons. If all of a sudden you want you on TV or whatever, and you just have to rise to the occasion. But if someone is not ready, or they're not good enough to be a superstar, but yet somehow they got that spot, God bless them, man. Good for you.
I actually just posted something about this the other day where, like, we're podcasting. It's all fun for shits and giggles and stuff. But, the talk shop thing where, like, people are jealous or they don't like a certain comic. Like, I don't think any comic needs to deal with that, because we're all in this together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we really, truly are. And there really is enough room for it, because every comic is individual. Everybody is, and we all have turns, and we all sometimes do great and the spotlight's on us, and then other times it's not. And it's just the way the world is. It's not only specific to comedy, it's to sports or any other business or any other thing. People think you're attractive when you're thin, and when you're not, they don't think you're that attractive. And then people lose weight and people gain weight and people do that. Life is a roller coaster, man. And what you just got to do is you got to be happy no matter what you're doing. Try to keep doing the best you can, and don't give a shit what anybody thinks. Just do it for yourself. And then as long as you do it for yourself and people like it, that's great. And if they don't like it, that's cool too.
Yeah.
As long as you're happy. If I have a good set, and if somebody didn't like it, I'm like, that sucks for you. It doesn't suck for me. It sucks for you. 99% of the people here loved my set. And if you didn't like it, tough shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's how I think. Like, if someone doesn't like my set, I think, well, you know what? All my heroes loved my set. I mean, they're all dead now, but you know what I mean? Like,
Oh my God.
but still, I got that. You know what I mean? Joey, it was really good to see you again, and thanks so much for rifting with us, pal.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. I love you. We really had fun. It was really cool. And I love podcasts, especially with comics, because we just shoot the shit and talk shop, and it's fun.
I always think comics are better interviewers than journalists or like newspaper people, because I think comics get the form of, it's an art interviewing, but it's also, who cares? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a conversation. It's like you're stepping into a conversation for the listener, right? They're not hearing back and forth like a ping pong game. It's everybody's playing together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about podcasts.
Yeah. All right, Joey. We'll see you later, buddy. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks to both of you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joey. Great talking to you.
All
You
right.
too, man. Take it easy, guys. Thanks.
All right, brother.
Thanks. All right, guys. Subscribe, rate, review to the show. And he left.
His obligation was done.
Give him another shout out. All right.
Joey Medina comic on Instagram. Check him out. Very cool dude. Posts a lot of great content.
Usually they stay when I hit record.
He saw that and he was out of there. He was like, dude, it was a pleasure. And It is now over.
He was like,
See
I
you
don't
later.
want to talk to you for another 10 years. I'm like, oh,
We'll get it. We'll get it for his 40th year comedy anniversary. We'll have a special.
Oh.
No, that was fun, man. I had a lot of fun, and wow, we got a lot of questions in.
Yeah.
And
it was your first official producing one.
Wow, that's
We're
great.
gonna tell IMDb when they fix your name, hey, Victor Pacheco,
Yes,
or whatever it says on
Yeah.
IMDb.
But
He also produced this one, bitch.
Yeah, that's hilarious. What's it called? Well, I'm glad he showed up. I'm glad that it went good. I'm glad that.
Were you scared he wasn't gonna show up?
Oh yeah, I was scared he wasn't going to show up, man. I've been in the Zoom room with you for hours for people that didn't show up or showed up 2 hours late.
Oh, like
So-
Scott Capero.
Oh, let's cut that part out. Oh wait, it's already not recording. Oh wait,
Yeah,
it's still recording.
it's still
recording. Scott, we love you.
Yeah,
And-
in Scott's defense, he was sucking cock. So
Yes, he was.
that's way better than podcasting.
Yeah, I would rather suck a cock than do your podcast, Keith. I'm just fucking with you, man. No, I'd rather do
No,
both.
this was a great. This was fun, and you know what was, I got the hiccups. You know what was more fun about was, because you've had a rough couple of weeks, and like today, I saw a beautiful energy from you, so that's why it's fun.
Oh well, yeah, man. Well, obviously, I don't know if you saw my post earlier about Pablo, but I asked him for a professional recommendation, and it was a yes or no question, and then he wrote a paragraph talking about how good I am, and so
Yeah,
it made me
and
feel
you got
good,
to
man.
interview one of your heroes in Joey.
That's right. I've loved Joey for years. I've loved him since I seen him on Que Locos, and for him
Dude,
to
we
tell
should
me-
have asked him to call Paul Rodriguez and tell him to stop being a whiny little bitch and just do the podcast.
that would have fucking walked him so hard.
Like,
That would have walked him so hard, Keith Rooney. You know, damn, he would be like, okay, this interview's over. Because he even said he is the original Latin King of comedy, Paul. You're like, yeah.
I'm willing to bet you Paul was the one who said no to Oprah.
No, it wasn't him. I bet you anything it wasn't him. I bet you anything it was George Lopez.
Oh,
And
really?
I bet you anything.
Uh,
I will put money on it.
let's hang up. Let's call Joey. And
Yeah.
then we'll find the answer on the next episode of Reza. Guys, thank you so much. Subscribe, rate, review. We'll see you next week.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.